The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, putting the focus on all the Borders clubs, including the East League teams from the area. Joining me as usual is Robin Purdy, and we start as always by going through last weekend's results, and for the first time really the bulk of them actually went to form. So Ayr 57, Glasgow Hawks 12 for instance.
Yes, that didn't look like it was going to be anything other than an Ayr win and 5 points. At that, Glasgow Hawks, by the sounds of things, have not disgraced themselves in as much as conceding 57 points this season at Melrose potentially isn't a disgrace, you know. So, yeah, that's one that's went to form. Glasgow Hawks will now turn their attention to a big game they have this coming Saturday, and Ayr march on at the top of the table.
Edinburgh Accies 55, Musselburgh 22. Now normally an Edinburgh derby is a bit like a Borders derby, you're never quite sure about form, but in this case form did in fact kick in, although Musselburgh I believe are about 10-12 points up in that game at Rayburn Place.
Yeah, they've obviously stuck in as well at Rayburn Place, but again, this game and the Ayr game were the two easiest to call, and Edinburgh Accies have emerged with the 5 points there as well, in what has been a good start to the season for them. Let's be honest, three from 5 they sit now, and they're in a pretty good place at the moment, particularly at Rayburn Place. They look strong.
Hawick 31, Watsonians 40. Now this is interesting because Hawick won the try count 5-4. Very leaky at the back though. Yeah,
it just seems to have changed a wee bit. Hawick have got a different squad to what they've had in previous campaigns, when you consider the guys that are either injured or have packed it in. So yeah, it's a bit of a season of transition from Hawick. They are picking up what might turn out to be key bonus points, and let's face it, they've had a tough run of games. You know, they've played Heriots, they've played Watsonians, now they've played Currie away, so they've only got one win, but like I say, they've just been picking up those bonus points that could prove to be crucial come the end of the season. But yeah, Hawick will start to pick up the wins eventually, I have no doubt about that. But again, Watsonians just starting to purr a wee bit, and they sit in third now, and they're in a top 3 where they'll no doubt remain for the remainder of this season. It's just probably now a case of in what position.
Well, it's interesting. We'll talk more when we hear from Graeme Hogg with his preview of this weekend's match, which is at Musselburgh. But of course, the last couple of seasons, it's been a case where Hawick were falling short getting bonus point tries. They seem to have fixed that now. They're scoring a lot of tries, but when they finished top of the Premiership, their defence was rock solid, and that's what they really have to work on. And if they get that right, then all of a sudden other teams can really start watching out.
Oh, definitely. They clearly can score tries at the moment, and they're scoring tries against good teams as well. Like I mentioned, Currie, Watsonians and Heriot's to name but 3. So it sounds like it's more tweaks than anything else at Mansfield at the moment. But yeah, Graeme. Graeme's a canny operator, and he's got a good team around him, and they'll be all over it, no doubt.
Well, you're mentioning Watsonians beginning to purr. Heriots have been purring right from the word go, and Heriots 33, Currie 7 is a huge result.
Yeah, it is. I did think Heriots would win that. I didn't see the margin coming necessarily. Currie coming in off the back of a good win against Hawick, and yeah, just kind of Currie back to earth with a bump a wee bit. But they're not going to be the only team to go to Goldenacre this season and come away with absolutely nothing. So yeah, Heriots again, like Ayr, march on top of the table.
Marr 42, Kelso 19. That's Kelso's 4th straight loss, which is obviously not ideal. But we must also remember the first day of the season, Marr put 40 points on Selkirk, and we thought, my goodness me, it's going to be a long trek for Selkirk this season. And they went on to score 3 wins. So Marr at Fullerton Park has always been a difficult place to go. But again, the margin of victory, a bit surprising.
Yeah, probably. Kelso, again, another team that maybe just they just need to get any kind of win at the moment. Probably a 9-6 would do them. I don't see it being 9-6 tomorrow, unfortunately. Marr appear to be a different proposition at Fullerton than they do on the road this season, so again, Kelso won't be the last team to go over there and come away without anything to show for it. But yeah, big few weeks coming up for Kelso with what lies ahead. Bit of a free hit tomorrow, but there's some big games, there's some winnable ones coming up down the track thereafter.
And of course, a second red card in a row for Kelso. Dan Gamble going off. That means he's suspended for a couple of games.
Yeah, and that's not ideal. It's never ideal to lose a front line prop, whether it's the suspension or injury. And yeah, they'll miss Dan. But yeah, just when things are it's the old cliche, when things are not really going your way, you get a bit more niggly, and just seems to be that nothing goes your way, like I say, and just, discipline maybe a thing at Kelso at the moment.
And the other match was Melrose 22, Selkirk 24. You were there, of course, the one that got away for Mel. Selkirk, though, were 19-5 up. Melrose came back into it 19-all. Then they went ahead 22-19. And I remember coming over to you for what I thought was the full-time report. And you said, no, they're still playing here. And oh my goodness, they scored a try.
Yeah, great heart showed by both teams, you have to say. I said to the guys in my post-match interviews, how Selkirk got from the position they were in after half an hour to where the hole in which they found themselves with seconds to go. And you could also say the same about Melrose. They've clawed their way back into it brilliantly, but then how did they not win that game? They had so many chances that they spurned, or they knocked it on over the line, or they were held up, or whatever it was. So yeah, both of those teams, they played out a good encounter. It wasn't champagne rugby. Maybe in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, Selkirk looked like their backline could score every time they touched the ball, but my word, Melrose have got a lot of ticker in this team at the moment. They are acquitting themselves pretty well. They're 2 from 5 now, so they could do with a win this weekend, but they're still sitting okay in the table. But yeah, we think back to Melrose last season, and this is why I've been so impressed with them this season. We think back to them last season, and there's a lot of guys that were there then that are playing now, and we watched them get their tummy tickled down at Ayr, and they got hammered at home by Accies, and there was a wee bit of a, dare I say, a soft centre there, but they've got rid of that absolutely, and they're really, really fronting up. And in Angus Runciman, they've got a leader of men. He was absolutely sensational on Sunday. So
big improvements in less than a year.
Oh, definitely, they've improved on the field. Obviously, they've improved, but they are absolutely going that. Doing that what they wanted to do, and that's get their identity back as Melrose, and they're playing like an old Melrose team now. They're getting stuck in. They're all pulling for each other. Selkirk, again, a complete transition from where they were last season. We've mentioned the recruitment before, but they are playing really, really well. They look fit, they look strong, they look tough, and they've got a back line that can carve anybody on their day.
National 1 then, and this was an interesting one. Boroughmuir 33, Glasgow Accies 46. Now Boroughmuir were 19-0 down, so it seemed as if it was going to form. They then came back to lead in that game, got a try bonus. Much better performance for them, and I think at one point it was 33-34, and then Glasgow Accies moved away and got the 46 points in all. So, but certainly brighter times ahead, I think, possibly for Boroughmuir.
Yeah, I've heard they've got 2 or 3 guys back in the last week or two,
and Jordan Edmonds, of course, getting at least a brace there.
There's your case in point. You look at National 1 and players like Jordan Edmonds and Big Ross McKnight at Stirling, and you think there's potentially a bucket load of tries there for those types of players, and yeah, he could carve it for the rest of the season now, and in doing so, if he does, he could help Boroughmuir up the table. But Glasgow Accies, they appear to be the third force in this league. That's a good win. Not any win, 5 points on the road. That's a good win, and they're another club in a good place at the moment.
GHA 57, Jed-Forest 7. No real surprises with the scoreline. I mean, GHA put 50 on Gala, put 60 unexpectedly, of course, on Stirling County. Still the score of the season, I think, so far. So they're going great guns. A lot of people saying, well, how have they managed to do it? Because at the start of the season, we probably wouldn't have looked at GHA as a potential contender for promotion. But we have to take all that back because of the results that we've seen, which are outstanding. But how have they done it?
I think in the sort of tentative inquiries that I've been making, they just have a team with a lot of boys in it that have been there a long time and played a lot of rugby together, and have played a lot of Premiership rugby together, and they just seem to be clicking this season for whatever reason. They're obviously well coached. They've obviously just got good rugby players. You can't rack up 50 odd points, 60 odd points nearly every time you play if you don't. So there'll be no other great surprise in it other than that. And yeah, Jed were always going to lose that game for me, and that's no offence to them. But yeah, GHA really flying at the moment, top of the table. Jed might have hoped they could have snuck a 4-point bonus try there, but it wasn't to be.
Callum Forrester, of course, in charge at GHA.
That's a good point. Callum Forrester in charge at GHA. Ryan Grant, ex-Scotland and Lions, in charge at Glasgow Accies. So there's guys that are deeply ingrained in professional setups. That can't help to rub off on players at clubs that also have quite a big catchment area as well.
The other results, well, Gala 32, Peebles 17 was our featured match last weekend, and Gala raced a 22-0 half-time lead. No way back really for Peebles after that. They did score 3 tries in the second half. Gala did enough early on to get that win and leave Peebles going away with no points at all.
Yeah, and I'm going to apologise to Gala for something I said about a minute ago, referring to Glasgow Accies as the third force in this league. Gala set a point behind them with the same amount of wins, so I think it's been an absolutely brilliant start to the season by Gala. Yes, they were heavily reversed at GHA, but look what's happened since. They're another couple of wins from safety potentially, and we're only 5 games in, so really pleasantly surprised with how it's went for Gala this season. That's a really good win for my money against Peebles as well, because Peebles are firmly in the no mugs category this season and have been for a wee while, and by the sounds of things they've got stuck in as well in the second half, and again another promoted club to me, not had a bad start to the season. Peebles as well. They maybe would have hoped to have got something, a point or two from that game in the border derby there, but yeah, another club on the up for me.
And you mentioned, of course, last week that if Gala did win with a bonus point, they would be up to 19 points, which has happened, and that now opens up a huge gap. And in fact, whatever happens with Gala this weekend, they're going to stay 4th, or if they win at Glasgow Accies, they could actually leapfrog them into 3rd place. But the important part in this season, with 3 going down, there is huge daylight now.
Oh, there's 12 points of daylight, yeah. And Gala have still obviously got Boroughmuir to play and Highland to play and Dundee to play at least once, if not twice. So yeah, that puts them in a really good position.
And talking of Highland, they got their first win. It was at home to Dundee by 29 points to 28. Dundee still without a win, but you have to sort of sympathise a bit with them as well. They've had 2 close away losses, Boroughmuir by a point and Highland by a point as well. So although Dundee are sitting at the bottom, you can't sort of write them off.
No, it's not like some clubs in some divisions previously where it's been a cricket score every weekend. And that actually looks like not too bad a result for both those teams. Highland were desperately in need of a win, which they got, but Dundee to come up, to score 28 points at Highland is a tough place to go, and you only get beat by a point when you're rooted to the foot of the table. That looks gutsy. They've got their work cut out from here, the Dundonians, to clamber their way back up to the zenith that will be 8th position, or 7th rather, in this division this season with 3 down.
Well, last week we were talking about Stirling County losing by 60 points to 22 at GHA, and we were contemplating what's going to happen when they meet Biggar, and you came back with one word. The one word was backlash. And, well, let's read out the score. Stirling County 63, Biggar 28. You're getting your predictions right.
Oh, for once, Biggar drew the short straw there, didn't they? Whoever went up to what would have been a raging Stirling County after the weekend before's result were going to face a backlash, and yeah, Biggar won't be the first and they won't be the last this season to go up there and see a scoreline like that. So Stirling, yeah, very much back on the horse, but they're going to have to keep picking up the 5-pointers now.
Well, Berwick got their first win of the season, immediately jumped from 9th to 7th, 35-17 to Lass Wade, who forgot their kit. They actually played in Berwick away kit for the first half after a 15-minute delay to kick-off time, and then they changed when their kit finally got to Scramerston. I bet their jersey numbers would have been all over the place. That would have been a commentator's nightmare. I could see you tearing your hair out for something like that.
Yeah, we love jersey and number confusion, don't we? But great to see Berwick get their first win. That takes them above Lass Wade in the table now, albeit on points difference. That's a big result for Berwick. And yeah, as I said last week, the table just has a bit of a different look this season. Newton Stewart did pretty well last season. Lass Wade did really well, and they're the bottom 2 now. So yeah, big win for Berwick. They've had some decent tussles with Lass Wade, and yeah, that's one for Lass Wade to forget. The rugby side of things and the jersey debacle as well.
Okay, let's have a look at tomorrow then. A game tonight, in fact, between 2 heavy hitters, Watsonians against Heriots at Marside, live on BBC Alba, and Dale Clancy summarising, we dare him to do it in Gaelic. Not a chance. But that's a really attractive game, isn't it? And I'm looking forward to watching that.
It is. I was going to say, he's highly eloquent in English, Dale, but I don't know about his Gaelic skills. But yeah, it's a mouth-watering tie, that, and I'm gonna see if I can tune into that one tonight, and it's a really difficult one to call, Stuart, because Watsonians have the home advantage. They appear to have improved immeasurably in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but Heriots are on song at the moment, so yeah, this is a Super Series. This is a Super Series fixture now that both of these clubs have embedded themselves back in the Premiership, if you like. You know, Ayr have played Watsonians. That was earlier in the piece, and Watsonians obviously went okay that day at home to Ayr. So, it could be a narrow win for both, you know, either of those clubs, and I expect both of them to pick up league points.
And it is interesting because you mentioned it there, Watsonians against Ayr in the first game of the season, and Watsonians were like in front for the first 60 minutes, 5 penalties, Jason Baggett, and then 4 tries off the back of that from Ayr, and they won 26 points to 22. And of course the week after that they went to Poynter Park and Kelso turned them over. But as we've so rightly said now, they're beginning to purr.
Aye, they are, and you know, Baggett's a key man for them. We all know about his quality in this neck of the woods, and a player like that could be the difference tonight against Heriots. But Heriots have got absolutely class operators in there. You know, Glendinning, we've spoke about Selkirk's recruitment. Glendinning from Ayr to Heriots must be one of the signings of the season.
7:30 kick-off, well 7:35 kick-off. It goes on Ayr at 7:30, and Dale, of course, coming off the back of some Gaelic to enjoy as well. Well, Currie, they are playing Marr tomorrow at Millennium Park. In the days before Super 6 sides being integrated into the Premiership, that would have been a really good club game, wouldn't it? It still is now, of course, but Currie in 11th position, Marr in 6th.
It's a good modern day rivalry. This one's a bit like Hawick and Currie as well. It's developed in recent seasons. You're right. We not so long ago would have been talking about this game, you know, albeit 6 games in, would have been talking about this as to being almost vital as to who finishes where in terms of playoff games and who gets a home semi and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's going to pan out this season with both of them in the top 4, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a good, attractive game, and Currie, the well documented slow start, but Marr away from home have not set the heather light as well, so I fancy Currie to nick this one.
Glasgow Hawks against Melrose. First time we're going to hear the sound bites from coaches this evening. Melrose needing to bounce right back after the disappointment at the Greenyards. Let's hear what co-head coach Scott Wight has to say this week.
Huge disappointment after the result last week, just in terms of that patch in the first half when we went 19-5 down, and then, you know, loads of positives in terms of the manner and the way we got ourselves back into the game to, you know, essentially let them score last play of the game to win. So, you know, there's a huge amount of disappointment within the squad, which obviously, you know, makes boys turn up and, you know, essentially work even harder, which, you know, we never question anyways. You know, we know we're getting a performance every week off of the boys, you know, and it's just re-evaluating the point that, you know, the reality is we're following Ayr every week, so, you know, we're probably getting a team that's 10% better because generally Ayr are winning most of their games, so it's a really difficult team to follow. And then also you chuck Melrose into the category as well in terms of ourselves, that everybody, you know, so look, there's a balance in terms of, you know, teams are always coming off the back of defeat at the moment to play us, which is difficult, but the reality is we've got to get used to that because that's what we're going to be doing all season. So yeah, this week obviously going up to Glasgow, who are just above us, so, you know, in the context of the league and stuff, it's a huge game for us. You know, one, obviously boys are looking forward to going away from home again. You know, we've actually performed quite well away from home in terms of beating Currie and beating Musselburgh, so, you know, we're looking forward to getting on the road again and going up to Glasgow and seeing what they've got to offer. This week, unfortunately, Zen Swajak's unavailable and Struan Hutchison due to injury from last week, so both of them won't be available. But I thought Robbie Robinson and Jack Dobie both made an impact off the bench. So it'll be Will Owen, Hooker. I've not fully decided in terms of what way we're going squad wise, because obviously we've got the flexibility of Ben McLean and we've got Logan Kirklear, but it's just what happens in and around the back row this week. Obviously Elliot Ruffin returned off the bench last week, which is excellent, and this week Finlay Sinclair's also fit, so, you know, it's quite exciting to see Finlay in terms of what he's potentially going to give. And we've also got Ben White available this week. Ben White's returned from injury, so Ben White and Finlay Sinclair will both return from injury this week in some capacity. Half-back wise, backline wise, you know, will remain the majority the same in terms of, you know, we've got no injuries in the backline, so the only one that probably looking at Matty Klein replacing Struan Hutchison with on the bench, which is good. Matty's been away for a couple of of weeks, and so he comes back on the bench after featuring early on in the season. So, on a whole, we're fairly consistent from last week, as well as then seeing obviously Ben White in the Melrose top for the very first time, and then Finlay Sinclair returning from injury, which is a big boost. So yeah, as I say, hugely looking forward to Saturday and getting back out in the pitch and righting the wrongs from last week.
Hawks in 7th after their defeat at Ayr, but doing OK at home. Melrose have lost all 3 home games but won both away games at Currie and Musselburgh, so their form is lost, won, lost, won, lost. It's got to be a win, isn't it?
Certainly winnable if they show the same guts as they showed on Saturday past and in recent weeks as well. Zen being out and Struan Hutchison being out, that those are front liners. That's a blow, of course. But yeah, Finlay Sinclair, he's gone well for Melrose since coming from Peebles, and Ben White being back is timely as well. So yeah, it's a winnable one for Melrose. I don't think they're going to have the services of Jerry Blythe, Lafferty and Harry Morris this week. Both of those have got pro commitments, it would seem. So it's going to be a tough game. Glasgow Hawks will be absolutely desperate, as will Melrose, which should make it a good game. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I was so impressed by Runciman last week, and if he can lead and drag along with him, then Melrose will be in the fight. And I've been really impressed with Rolly Brett this season as well. He looks like he's taking on responsibility himself as a senior player now. That to me was very evident on Saturday past there. He was putting himself over for the penalties to touch and the kicks at goal. He looks a senior player now, and of course we all know he's a good player. So it's a winnable one for Melrose, but it is going to be tough, and it's a big game for both these clubs in the context of their season.
Well, our commentary match tomorrow on Rugby Radio is at Poynter Park between Kelso and unbeaten high-flying Ayr. Here's Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan.
This week we welcome Ayr to Poynter Park, the top dogs in Scottish Rugby at the moment, flying high with 5 wins from 5. Playing some really good stuff under Grant Anderson. He's got them a real cohesive unit at the moment, and a big squad. They're able to rotate as well, and you've got to admire them for how well they're playing and how well they're doing as a club. Absolutely brilliant at the moment for them. So we've got a huge challenge, but one we need to look forward to and take on head on, and give the crowd at Poynter something to cheer about, and hopefully stay in the match as long as we can. You just never know. On selection, Frankie Robson's unavailable this week. Liam Tate unfortunately got injured in the first 10 minutes last week at Marr. He's out for the season with his knee. We wish him all the best. Dan Gamble is currently suspended after the red card last week. On the returns, Grant Shields makes a timely one along with Murray Woodcock. Liam Herdman goes to 10, with Angus Utterson making his first start of the season in 12 jersey. So we wish them all the best, and hopefully a big crowd there to cheer the boys on.
So no Dan Gamble or Frankie Robson. Tate out for the season as well, but some positive news in there with people coming back into the side, and of course they have home advantage. Yes, they do. And at the start of the season, you might have looked at this one and said, if there's a banana skin for Ayr somewhere along the line, then this is it. The Poynter factor. I don't think Kelso are going quite as well as they did last season, and they've had injuries and they've got suspensions now as well, and there'll be a big crowd there, and Kelso will get stuck writing about them. Of that there is no doubt. Shields, Neil used the word timely, or Shields being back is very timely, but like most of the clubs in this division, I just don't see Kelso having enough against this brilliant Ayr outfit on and off the park. That is our featured match, of course. Dale Clancy and David Ferguson there for us for the commentary game tomorrow. Musselburgh against Hawick, and after some heavy defeats against Ayr, Melrose and Edinburgh Accies, Musselburgh have to take on Hawick at Stony Hill. Here's Hawick head coach Graeme Hogg.
Really disappointed with the final result last week when we played Watsonians at home. On the whole, we were relatively happy with our performance. It was certainly better than it had been in the previous weeks, but obviously getting beat by 40 points at home, there's still a lot of work to be done. When we've got the ball and we were attacking, we look dangerous. Another 5 tries, which is obviously excellent, but at the end of the day, it's the old adage that defence wins games, and we need to continue to work on that. So that has obviously been a real focus in training this week. Heading towards Saturday, we obviously play Musselburgh, Stony Hill, not the easiest place to go. Obviously, Musselburgh have not had the best start to the season either, so it's obviously going to be a difficult encounter there. We're fortunate enough we can bring Jack Hocking in from Edinburgh, so he'll come in and start at 10 alongside Logan Henry at 9. Sam Frizzle and Gareth Welsh back in the squad this week after both being unavailable last week. Looking forward to this week's challenge. Obviously, it's a results business, and we're doing everything we can to be on the end of a good result this week.
They're scoring tries for fun, and Musselburgh conceding tries not for fun. What's this one going to do?
I cast my mind back to, I was at the fixture last year at Stonyhill. I think it was just after New Year, if memory serves, and Hawick were extremely comfortable that day. It was a very, very professional and hugely impressive showing. From memory, it was 28-0 to Hawick, and Musselburgh they barely breached the 22, let alone looked like scoring. In what was a pretty filthy day as well. So yeah, that was a great performance. Musselburgh are struggling, let's be honest about it, and this is a more than winnable game for Hawick, but let's again be honest and call it what it is, Stuart. This is a must-win for Hawick. Hawick will pick up the wins, but if they don't on Saturday and they're 1 from 6, then it sounds a ridiculous thing to say, but 2 from 6 is monumentally different to 1 from 6, and yeah, we're just about in must-win territory. Not all games from here on in are must-win from Hawick, absolutely not. Ayr away is not a must-win game, but I have to look at the table now, Stuart, and say that this is a must-win game from Hawick, but I think they will come away with minimally 4 points.
And as you mentioned earlier, Hawick have been playing some of the big teams already, and when they got Marr at home, they absolutely blew them away.
Oh yeah, and Musselburgh, but Musselburgh are stuffy. There's no doubt about that, and let's not forget they beat Kelso earlier in the season, but they just seem to have struggled a wee bit since then. But yeah, Hawick, no problem at all scoring tries. But I don't think they're going to be as defensively troubled by Musselburgh as they have done in the last few weeks by Watsonians, Currie and Heriot, all of whom are different animals to the Stonyhill men.
Well, Sam Matthews will be down at Stonyhill covering that one for us tomorrow. Selkirk versus Edinburgh Accies, 5th against 4th, both coming off the back of wins. Here's Selkirk boss Sesh Henderson.
Selection wise, we've got Ross Nixon and Ryan Cottrell available, so they'll come back into the squad. It's just give us a wee bit more extra experience and options in the back line. The forwards wise, are pretty much stays the same. Just one change actually. Andrew Cochrane comes in at the second row, with Andrew Cochrane moving to the back row and Dylan moving to open side as Taylor Wilson's not available for this one. So luckily we've got a wee bit extra strength and depth, so we shouldn't be too affected. Accies are a big pack with good strike runners in their midfield and back three, so we need to make sure that for this week we keep our width to our defence, keep tempo at attack. They've got a big set of forwards, we want to move them about. Make sure from last week, big massive learnings, keep our discipline, especially in that tackle area. We got caught short by a few penalties. This one just gone slightly high, so we just need to get back to basics at training during the week. Just promoting that low chop tackle, the tackle assist, making decisions where to counter or jackal or kind of get the hands on the ball. But a little bits of improvement. We were jumping up and down after last week's win at Melrose, because we were lucky to get away with that one, and I think we wanted to have a reaction to our performance on Saturday, which is a top 4 side. That's where we want to be. We've started well, but we need to keep it going and not get complacent and put a big performance on Saturday and then just see what happens. I think if we do that, then we'll come away with points. It's how many, then that'll be up to how we play. So we're looking forward to it, a home game, keeping the momentum going in our performances.
As Sesh mentioned, and also Aaron McComb, co-captain during the week, discipline will have been worked on this week for sure.
Yeah, I think at my last count they'd coughed up 16 penalties in that game against Melrose last week, but Melrose weren't far behind them, and I believe there's been another directive given to the refs about tackle height, and it's just going to keep getting further and further down. So yeah, there was an awful lot of high tackle penalties, some of which were dubious, but some of which were merited, and they had a couple of yellow cards as well, so they'll definitely be looking to tighten up on their discipline. But they played some really good rugby, as they have done in recent weeks. They've got a settled team. They've used the least amount of players of any club in the Premiership this season. They don't seem to have the niggles or the injuries, as is what happens when a club is going pretty well. And they've got the likes, aren't in that backline, Aaron McComb, Pickles, Welsh, Callum Anderson, some serious rugby players in there that all look like they're having a whale of a time with the rugby at the moment. So it's going to be a really good game. But as I said last week in commentary, I cast my mind back to almost the same time 2 seasons ago. Selkirk at the time were flying, and it was thought they were going to beat Accies quite comfortably at home when Accies came down, and there were 3 tries up at half time, but then the wheels fell off and Accies came back and nicked it. So it's got a similar type feel to it. But yeah, Accies are probably less of an unknown quantity now because they've started this season so well. So Selkirk will be very, very much on their guard, you would have thought, and 2 teams that like to play a bit of rugby, sure to be a good one.
And of course you've seen them twice, they've won twice, so you're their lucky charm.
I've seen them thrice.
Oh really? Did they win the first one?
They won thrice. Glasgow Hawks comfortably, Kelso away and Melrose away.
And they've won them all.
So
that's 3 then.
And Sesh said he's going to bring me some tray bake tomorrow as well. So let's see if he's a man of his word.
Indeed, we shall. We shall look out for that one. So you're obviously down there at Philip Hogg covering that one for us tomorrow. International 1 and Biggar versus Boroughmuir at Hartry Mill.
Biggar home win for me. But Boroughmuir, they seem to be improving, and if they've got some of the frontliners back, then you know Jed should have won at Biggar. Peebles did win at Biggar, so it's not a complete fortress as it's maybe been in years gone by. So yeah, but maybe Boroughmuir have just got this one marked on the calendar. But yeah, I would fancy Biggar to edge it, but possibly Boroughmuir to pick up a point or 2.
Dundee at the bottom of the table against GHA at the top, and if GHA travel well, that should be one-way traffic, but we've seen shock results this season's aplenty. How confident are you that GHA are going to win this one?
100% confident how Dundee.
Well, let's put this to the test. Would you actually bet your brand new house on GHA winning this one and risking losing it all on a Dundee victory? Are you that confident?
Oh yeah, without a handicap, a non-handicap bet. Oh yeah, I'll double up and take another house. But no, yeah, it's top v bottom, and it's a team that's racking up tries and racking up points for fun against a team that are struggling. So, you know, home advantage counts for something, but I don't think it'll count enough on Saturday for Dundee to get one up on GHA, unfortunately for them.
OK, we will see what happens on next week's programme. That will certainly be a bigger shock than the GHA 60-22 win against Stirling County. But next up, 3rd place Glasgow Accies against Gala. Director of Rugby at Gala is Ewen Swinton. He's been talking about this one and, of course, their win against Peebles last weekend.
Our game last Saturday went very much according to plan in terms of the way that Gala played. We knew that we were up against a dogged opponent, and Peebles certainly proved to be that. The first half went well. We were scrummaging well. We were very accurate in the backs. The centres were making good, strong breaches, and they were creating space on the wide outside for our wingers, both of whom scored. The accuracy there was a really good, strong, growing factor of our game, and that's something that will only improve even further. We were pulled back by 2 or 3 marginal forward passes when going for broke really on Saturday, and that will eventually start to come through and work. So lots to be optimistic about there. The forwards really took the game to a strong Peebles pack. The front row play that we are seeing now is tremendously improved. We're getting a real dividend from the introduction of Ryan Montgomery, particularly in the second half of matches, and we were pushing Peebles back on Saturday. That's not something we've been doing in recent times, so it's to be hoped that side of our game will really come on and we can dominate other scrums where in the past couple of years we've perhaps been on the back foot there. So that's a tremendous element of go forward in our game. The centres are running strongly. Dan Nicholson is really coming onto a game, having come back from his injury, and Murray Wilson is joining in the fun. These boys are creating space out wide, and long may that continue. The forwards are going well in terms of their own carrying a ball. Craig Keddy and Tim McCavanagh made some tremendously strong breaches on Saturday, and we hope for more of that this weekend. We head up to Glasgow in really good spirits. The team are going well with 4 out of 5. We're under no illusions as to the challenge that we face. This is what some might describe as a free hit. Not a lot is expected of us, but given the improvements that we're seeing in the boys, the opportunity to be more dominant in the scrum than we've been, and a very strong carrying back row, feeding a set of backs who are willing to run and very able to run, then I really don't see any reason not to be optimistic about Saturday. We go up there with the strongest team that we can muster. There are a couple of injury and availability challenges, but we'll go up there. It is effectively a free hit. The boys can be relaxed about their game and enjoy themselves,
and hopefully we will come back with a result. But the start of the season that we've had means that we'll stay in fourth place regardless of Saturday's result, unless we leapfrog Accies, of course. And we're happy with where we are with our game. The important thing for the club this season, and for most clubs in this league, I think, will be to win home games. But we've got to go away to away games with loads of confidence and a real sense that we can beat pretty much anybody. And I think when we are at our full strength, we are in that position now, which is great. So Gala is definitely a club on the up, and we need to all focus, work hard, and keep it going in that direction.
Confidence as ever from Ewen Swinton, but he's got a right to be, hasn't he? Because looking at Glasgow Accies as well, they've been quite leaky.
Oh, they have. Our stats team reliably informed me that I think they've conceded no less than 19 points in all other games this season, so they can concede, absolutely. There's tries to be had there by Gala. I'm not sure, or has Ewan been to the Neil Hinnigan school of mind games when he calls third v fourth a free hit when there's only one team in the 1 point in the table between them? I'm not sure I would call it a free hit, but yeah, it's a tough assignment for Gala on the road. But yeah, Accies look like they've called them the third force in this league, but they do leak a point or two. And Gala, Ewan's right, just seem to be in a really good place. Another couple of wins for me, and it's first objective of the season is done, and that's being safe, and there's certainly a bonus point or two there as well.
Jed-Forest against Stirling County at Riverside Park. Jed have most of their backline away at Gregor Young's Stag Do, but head coach Stuart Johnson is looking forward to seeing some youngsters step up.
We're back at Riverside this week after a disappointing trip on the road last weekend, unfortunately. But GHA is a tough place to go, and you can see by some of their other results that we're not alone by getting a big score against us there. They put 60 on Stirling, 50 odd on Gala as well. So yeah, disappointing last weekend, but we move on and we're back at home, and things don't get any easier with Stirling County at home. Obviously they had a big result against Biggar at the weekend there, and we've got some notable missing this weekend due to a stag do. So backline will look totally different. Gregor Young, Lewis Young, Robbie Shearer-Gibb, Rory Marshall all away. So our backline will be young, but it gives boys an opportunity to come in and show what they can do. Young Aaron Weatherhead will stay at 10, Ross Nichol come back into it. We've got Logan Kerr, who's come back to the club, 18-year-old, a really exciting player. Matthew Beaton will come back into it. And obviously Mark Glenn's still in there as well. So look, it's a young backline, but it's an exciting backline. But they'll have their work cut out against a really experienced and physical Stirling side. Forwards, we've got a few missing as well. Injuries. Kyle Grieve is off. Jamie Hind comes back into it this week after being off for the last wee while with his fingers. Grant Paxton's back this week, and we've got Callum Davidson coming back into the squad as well after a bit of time out with an ankle operation, and he's been playing well for the Twos. So kind of settled forward pack, as I say, young backline. But look, we're excited about this weekend, and we're back at home. Jacko will have Stirling up for this, and they'll be physical, but we just need to stick to our structures and put the ball in the right areas, make our tackles, and just keep the scoreboard ticking over. That was the main thing from last weekend. We didn't get the scoreboard ticking over at all. So if we can do that, I'd say these young boys will be able to run all day in the backs, so good opportunity for them as well. If they come in, do well, they'll keep the jerseys. That's what we're about. We've got a squad mentality now, so we'll see how we get on.
Stuart Johnson, formidable task for Jed against the Super 6 champions, but a great experience for the young boys, and well, let's use that phrase again, a free hit for Jed.
Yeah, it's the very definition of a free hit, this one. It would have been a free hit anyway, Stuart, let's be honest, but there's a few boys away on a stag do that's been arranged for many months, so it was known about. And let's be honest, Stuart, if you're a Jed or a Peebles or a Biggar or even a Gala, at this point in the season, you're not looking at the Stirlings and the GHAs as games that you identify as a win. You're looking at everybody else. So if ever there's a game for there to be a few players away, then this is probably it, rather than if they'd been at home to Gala or at home to Biggar. That to me poses more of a problem. So it's the very definition of a free hit, and a lot of young boys in there, sink or swim, steep learning curve, all that kind of stuff. Logan Kerr, didn't realise he was at Jed. He looked a a prospect when he was 15, 16 years of age, and he's obviously come up through the system through Melrose there, son of Gavin, real stalwart at Riverside, and obviously he went on to bigger and better things, so it'll be interesting to see how Logan goes. But yeah, a few boys off for Jed this weekend. I can't see anything other than 5 points for Stirling.
Andrew Fleming will be there for us tomorrow. The other game in National 1 is Peebles versus Highland, and we can hear from the head coach at Peebles, Graeme Patterson.
So last Saturday in Nitherdale, we certainly went there with a lot of hope and expectation of seeing a very good performance based on the fact that we'd done that against Boroughmuir the previous week, and obviously got a win the week before that as well up at Biggar. So expectations was high. We felt we prepared well, but it certainly didn't play out like that to the end of the first half. Certainly our start to the game I thought was pretty reasonable. We were good in defence, and the game was pretty evenly matched going into that halfway point in that first half. And then we had a couple of really good opportunities for driving lineouts which didn't go to plan. A bit of disruption from Gala, which is probably down to a wee bit of good prep by their coaching staff and their players on our line-out delivery. So fair play to those guys. They've done their homework. But again, it was just down to us and about our execution. And the disappointing thing was those line-out losses did lead to Gala scores. So big momentum shifts in that first half, and that kind of just seemed to knock the wind out of our guys on the pitch and allowed Gala to kind of score at will almost in that second half of the first period of the game, and it was really disappointing to see how we reacted to that. It was really key that we started well in the second half, which we did. We got that try, a really well taken try by young Rory McCaffey, which showed what we could do when we moved that ball into that wider channels, giving ourselves opportunities with a bit of depth. But unfortunately, again, we just seemed to lose momentum. We weren't able to retain possession, operate at the same kind of intensity that we had against Boroughmuir. So Tuesday night session was a mixture of on-field stuff, and we really did have a look at some video clips, not just about the Gala game and what went wrong, but also what we did well in that game and other games to really focus the minds and show and visualise what we can do well. That kind of complete performance is what we're looking for, so just merging those three aspects together so we can get a really good performance against Highland looking ahead to Saturday back at home. So we're really looking to start well, getting a good foothold in that game and making sure that we can put the foot down and really look to get a good performance and an 80-minute performance this time down at the Gates. A few selection issues round about, guys being unavailable, so Matty Carrier and Ewen Murray have work commitments, so they can't play. Jay Copeland's away on holiday and he's really impressed off the bench. A couple of games that he's come off the bench, so it's unfortunate that he's away on holiday. We do have some able replacements coming back. Ross Brown will be back into the second row. Willie Napier, hopefully we'll get a late fitness test again on him, and hopefully he'll pull through this week. Ewan Jackson is also coming into the squad and up front. Behind the scrum, not a huge amount of changes apart from the wingers. So we lost Jordan Charters to injury, a bad dislocation of his knee last week. So he's out for a number of weeks now. But Davy Collins will be back, and Neil Pate will earn a spot on the other wing, with Buster Davison being unavailable because he's away as well on holiday. So we're confident we can turn this around. We're looking to put a bit of daylight between ourselves and certainly those three teams who currently sit at the bottom, and just give ourselves a springboard into the next block of games.
Peebles obviously looking to start very, very well, a bit like Jed did, but of course we know what happened at the Jed Highland game, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. Highland looked stuffy against Jed, and they could have and possibly should have won. This is a massive game for Peebles. You know, we've spoken about the making daylight between yourself and those teams, and if Peebles can beat Highland, then there's a bit of daylight between them and Highland. But Boroughmuir are away to Biggar, and Dundee play GHA. So all of a sudden, if results go Peebles' way, the three at the bottom could start to look a wee bit cut adrift. So massive game, but absolutely make no bones about it, not a pushover at all. Highland were very stuffy, like I say, at Jed. But yeah, Peebles will be confident at home, and rightly so. Great try by young McCaffey. Gala, he
certainly was.
He does look a prospect. Carrier being out, that that's a blow. That would be a blow to most teams given what he brings. But Ross Brown coming in, that is a big boost after a wonderful performance last Saturday, albeit not in a playing capacity, but summarising for us, I thought he did wonderful.
He was very good, wasn't he? Yes, we look forward to having him again when he's injured again, which hopefully won't
be anytime soon
from a Peebles perspective. Right, let's go into National 2. Berwick got their first win of the season against Last Wade, but tomorrow back on the road at Newton Stewart, who they've done well against in recent times. Here's head coach Paul Pringle.
Even at this early stage of the season was a must win for us to get things ticking along. The lads really fronted up for me. I think we set the tone pretty early with the way we were playing. Our heads up rugby, exactly what we've been working on, was really effective. We went a couple of tries fairly early on from James Thompson and also Ryan Wilson. And it was really just a case then of pushing on. There's plenty of things that we've taken to training this week to work on. But yeah, we were just pleased to get that 5-pointer and just start the season off for us. Moving forward this week, we've got the long travel away to Newton Stewart. Again, we know this will be a very tough match. You can see they're getting stronger week on week. So we're expecting a real battle there. In terms of team selection, so unfortunately Duncan Hardy and Aidan Rosie are not available this week, so that'll allow opportunities for Jack Dalrymple to come back to the starting team. Adam Hardy will come in at scrum half with Cam moving out onto the wing. And we'll also have Aidan Creeley being rewarded for performances in twos coming onto the bench. I think it's worth mentioning, the real difference we've seen with having the twos up and running this year. So all credit to David Eagleton for working hard there, and for the boys. I mean, we can see the difference. The likes of Cam Wills, Carl Gullen, Rafa Kaminski and Duncan Hardy, these guys, when they've came in this season after little spells in the twos, they're really making massive impacts and actually claiming the jerseys. So that's exactly what you're looking for, and I think it shows the benefit of having a strong twos. So yeah, long journey. We're fully expecting a tough match, but we're aiming to keep building week on week and slowly start climbing that table.
So, Berwick against Newton Stewart at the bottom of the table. No wins for them, but 3 bonus points from 3 games, and you can't write them off after losing by just 1 point against GHK last week, who have lost just once this season.
Yeah, it's a strange place for Newton Stewart to find themselves. They were in the shake-up for a large chunk of last season, and they've got some good players as well, none more so than McCormick, who I think is dual registered with Marr these days. He showed up really well for Glasgow in the Inter-District Championship, so that they've got some players in there. But yeah, what a trip, what a lengthy bus journey for Berwick on Saturday. But all of a sudden, if they can beat Newton Stewart, who are now below them in the table, then they're up to 10 points, and it's just looking a whole lot more rosy in the garden. But speaking of rosies, Aidan Rosie, and that wasn't purposeful, that segue, I have to say.
I was impressed anyway.
So no, Aidan Rosie, that's a blow. He looks to me like one of the players in the Berwick ranks that could do it as at a higher level. I've always thought that about him. So that's a blow for sure. But yeah, what a good victory that would be through there, and a bit of a springboard it would be as well to get up to that 10-point mark.
Other games tomorrow in National 2, Gordonians versus GHK, Last Wade against Kirkcaldy. Hugh Brown's going to be there for us tomorrow for that game, and Preston Lodge against Falkirk. Some tasty looking fixtures in that division, of course, just the 9 teams in National 2. Only one game being played by our East League teams tomorrow. It's a rest day for Langham and Hoyt Quins, but it's the bowl competition tomorrow, and with Gala YM pulling out of the bowl completely, only Hoyt, Lindeen, Duns and Earlston are in it now from the area, so no game for Lindeen tomorrow for the second week running as well, which leaves us with Earlston against Duns, a repeat of last week's East League 3 game, which was won by Earlston at Duns by 63 points to 24. We can hear from Earlston head coach now, Cammy Hill.
Last week we were on the road to Duns in a league game which ended 63-24 in a win for Earlston, which for the neutral observer it would seem like it was a pretty one-sided affair, but for the first 50-55 minutes of that game it was very closely contested. Duns really stuck in. Some of their defence throughout the whole match I thought was really impressive. Young lad that was playing 12, Andrew Duff, he caused us quite a bit of bother in defence, so that's something we'll need to look at Obviously, you look at it, it's a great result, and there were some brilliant performances for Callum McNeil, Thomas Richardson, Craig Bruce, to name a few. Also, a big mention must go to James Fender, the young 17-year-old who came off the bench to make his senior debut, got stuck in everything and done really well and had a good performance. Obviously, we've still got loads to work on going into future fixtures. One thing I was pretty disappointed was the fact that we conceded 24 points. It might not seem that big an issue to some, but I feel over the end of last season, the start of this season, our defence has been much better than we displayed on Saturday. It's something we've really taken a bit of pride in, and that kind of let us down, I feel. Also, our attack, we butchered a few good try-scoring opportunities, whether it's bad passes, the receiving man knocking on, or we just lost our shape for small periods of the game, and it really cost us a few points, I think. Turning our focus to Duns again this weekend, as they come to the Hogg for the first round of the bowl. We know exactly what we're going to be coming up against. Obviously, some things we've been working really hard on in training to make sure we up our performance for this weekend and improving some slop areas I thought we had on Saturday. If we go into team selection, we welcome back 9 or 10 players that were unavailable last week due to other commitments. So that'll give us a chance to rest some players and obviously give some fringe players a good chance to get some game time.
So Earlston going very well this season.
Yeah, they seem to be, and that was a good win last weekend down at Duns. And well, my word, as he said there, they've got 10 boys coming back. So,
I know.
You know, that would
something's gone really right at Earlston, hasn't it?
Oh, we've spoken about it before. It just looks like a really well-run community club with a lot of buy-in from players, from volunteers, from coaches, from committee. They've got, you know, the great Sevens event that'll no doubt feed into the coffers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and as he mentioned there, you know, they've got 10 boys coming back after a 60-point win. You know, it just seemed to be a club in a really good place at the moment, you know, on and off the field. Just a great looking community club, as we've mentioned before. And yeah, there's clubs a lot higher up the pyramid than Earlston that would be absolutely thrilled to have 10 guys coming back into a squad that's just put 60 odd points on somebody. So yeah, they look in a good place at the moment.
Well, that's just about it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 2:30 tomorrow for 3 hours with Kelso v Ayr in the Premiership, our featured game with Dale Clancy and David Ferguson. We've reporters round the grounds as well on what should be another exciting weekend of Scottish Club Rugby. Friday Rugby Preview will be back same time next week, but from Robin and me, bye for now.
The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.